Oh, yes. You know what those horns mean.
Victory!
What is up, my friends? What a night. What a night. I hope you're all out there just having a great one. We appreciate y'all for joining us. Apologies for being a little late. This is actually the second time we've done this. We did a whole show without realizing that we weren't actually live. So now we got the rehearsal out of the way. Welcome. My name is Sean Al-Shatti. This is the post-fight show here on MMA Fighting. We'll get to UFC Nashville in a bit. You had Corey Sandhagen out there. Big win over Rob Font. But first, Paul Diaz. Let's bring in the crew. He is the Prince of Positivity. He is the King of the North. He is Alexander K. Lee.
Life is a rehearsal, isn't it, fellas? Really, in the end. And I don't think that was ever more true than after watching tonight's main event between Jake Paul and Nate Diaz. I have no idea what that means. Just felt like the right thing to say. You know, some commentators just say things while doing broadcasts, and I can do that too.
You said you weren't going to do this.
I didn't say name names. I said it happens sometimes.
The rehearsal was so much better than this one was. AK
really
still
was.
got the dog in him, though. AK still got the dog in him. And also joining us, the Legal Eagle, the mouth from the South. He is the darling of the comment section. The people love him. He is Jed Meshew.
Life isn't a rehearsal. You got one shot, then you're done. Live it up, people. Just like the wonderful Nathan Diaz is living it up because the man got paid and actually looked pretty good. I had fun tonight, guys. I didn't think I was going to have fun. No thanks to Corey Sandhagen. He did not do anything to have fun with for me tonight. We don't need to talk about him because Paul Diaz was actually enjoyable.
And of course, you know, it wouldn't be a post show without the most fearsome producer in the damn business. He is the undefeated in Casey Leydon, Manny the boards. Let's get to it, fellas. We're going to get right down into it because we have now seen this story 5 different times. And 5 times it has ended the same way. Tonight was no different. You have Jake Paul out there in Dallas. He defeats Nathan Diaz. He gets the unanimous decision. Judges scores ultimately 97, 92, 98, 91, 98, 91. He knocks down Nate Diaz in the 5th round. Had him on the ropes a couple times. Outlands him ultimately 174 to 143 on the punch count. And yet the whole thing was somehow so Diaz-esque, was it not? He was out there playing the hits. Nate in there until the end, taunting, even had his occasional Leon Edwards moments, though I would say nothing as significant as he had in that Leon Edwards fight. But ultimately, man, I don't know. Jed, you just said it. That was kind of fun. Did you have fun, Jed? And what are your takeaways from what we just watched?
I did have fun. And I certainly on our preview show and kind of this week, I have been the negative Nancy of the bunch. Not that I was like morally opposed to this fight or anything, just that it didn't really hold much for me. And I still felt that way for the whole time, basically, until they started fighting. And then they fought, and it was fun to watch it sort of unfold. There were a story developed over the course of that fight. There was pretty clear narrative, and Nate got to do some Nate things. It wasn't enough, but I would say that if we're taking this at all seriously, that's the best Jake Paul has ever looked in a boxing ring. And Nate Diaz wildly exceeded my expectations for him and frankly for many, I think. So it was fun. They were, I won't say like evenly matched in that Jake pretty clearly won that fight, but they were competitively matched in a way that led to some level of drama, certainly some level of intrigue. And if you ask any of those fans in the arena tonight, I guarantee you none of them are upset that they paid the money to go see that. So good card in that respect, a successful evening at the fighting box office.
Yeah, and I hate to repeat myself, but it felt so Diaz-esque, right? Especially we come out in the first round, Jake Paul's putting it on him early, and you have this moment of, oh man, this is even worse than I thought it was going to look, and then it's just Nate Diaz doing Nate Diaz stuff, outlasting, taking the damage, wearing on Jake Paul, and Gilbert Melendez said it to our pal Ariel Helwani in the fight, or during the fight, I should say. If this was a 20-round fight, maybe Nate Diaz wins this fight, right? Like it's the cardio king always holds up in the final rounds. AK, did this exceed your expectations? Like Jed, did it meet your expectations? Was this better or worse than you expected? Where are you at with this?
It was a little below my expectations, though it did play out, I think, a lot of us, the way a lot of us thought it would, if Jake Paul wasn't able to put Nate Diaz away, which I have been saying all week. I don't think Jake Paul can knock Nate Diaz out. Now, I had my doubts. I'll tell you, after that first round, I was like, okay, Jake Paul is going to win. But then I was like, no, I think Jake Paul is going to win. And then after that first round, he was landing so cleanly, and Nate Diaz looked so slow. I was like, he might actually be able to put him out cold. I've just never seen that before. So I was still pretty confident Diaz would make it out, but considerably less so than before. And again, like a lot of us have predicted, if Diaz was going to find success, it was going to be in the later rounds with that vaunted Diaz decathlon level cardio. They come on late, which hasn't always actually been true in his like fighting career, but that's the myth that him and his Diaz army have seemed to have established. And but there was actual proof in this fight. He had his moments later in the fight. He looked okay. That said, I hate to say I'm not as positive about Diaz's performance. It was fun from an entertainment standpoint. Fantastic, A+. He did what he's supposed to do. It was a Nate Diaz fight. He made it a Nate Diaz fight. Lots of taunting, the occasional burst of damage of boxing competency, and the fans cheering him louder and louder as the fight went on, even as, in my opinion, he fell behind pretty far in the scorecard. So his boxing, I thought, was pretty bad. I don't even think he looked as good. I don't even think Jake Paul looked as good as Jed is giving him credit for. I think Nate Diaz was pretty bad. And I don't know, maybe Jake Paul, maybe I liked his performance against Anderson better. I have to think about it, but I didn't think Jake Paul looked that great. So I guess saying it's his best performance isn't a super high bar.
Well, I'm a little surprised here. This is a complete reversal for both of you and the attitudes you had on the preview show. Now, AK sort of prints of negativity over here, but
I'm shocked by this. Like I'm just genuinely shocked by this. Like Jake's not a good boxer, but we've established this a long time ago.
Yeah.
He showed the most aspects to his boxing game that we've ever seen. He showed that he clearly learned lessons in the Tommy Fury fight. I don't know that he beats Tommy Fury in a rematch because Tommy Fury is such a different problem, quote unquote, to the Nate
he's
Diaz.
A boxer.
But like,
he's a boxer.
Yeah, he kind of boxed, but like it's not like Tommy Fury washed Jake either. But look, his cardio held up really impressively, frankly, because I thought in those first 3 rounds, like he might be in trouble and held up pretty well, showed a diversity to his game, didn't really get dragged into the Nate Diaz antics like he could have been. Like, I thought this was pretty clearly his best boxing performance because Anderson walloped him for large stretches of that fight. He was just 5,000 years old and couldn't follow through. I thought this was his best performance. Not saying that he is going to beat any meaningful person in a boxing match, but he keeps getting better because he has a lot of resources and he dumps them into this endeavor.
I think it's just because I feel like he had to work harder to beat it. I just thought Diaz looked so bad. Maybe I have to watch it again. Maybe I'm not being fair. Maybe my expectations were too high because I did pick Diaz to win. So there's that, there's that. Oh, I thought Diaz would be so much better, and then he wasn't super great. So I'm overcompensating now. But I just thought he looked so bad. We had a chat going on in the Slack, and you raised a good point. It did look like Paul was like maybe gassing himself out a bit, and like we said, Diaz's strategy should have been to sort of weather the storm early and come on late. But the problem was he looked so ineffective with his boxing in the early rounds. I'm like, even when he comes on, let's say he has all this energy, I'm not seeing him land anything significant. So I gave him rounds 4 and 8. I think if people rewatch the fight, that's what they'll agree with. They might want to give him other rounds. I don't know. 4 and 8, pretty clearly Diaz rounds. I'd actually be surprised people scored either of those rounds for Paul. That would really surprise. Those were clear Diaz rounds. He was just looked better and did more in those rounds. But otherwise, I don't think through the entire fight he landed that many good punches. I don't know what the significant strike numbers were, but everything just looked off balance and loopy. Call me a hater. I don't know. Diaz Army come after me. Maybe I read this wrong. I just thought his boxing looked absolutely atrocious. So I can't give Jake Paul that much credit for it.
Absolutely. I'm
It was bad.
A bit stunned by that. To me, Nate Diaz looked like Nate Diaz. Have you watched Nate Diaz? This is what Nate Diaz fights look like.
And we now realize, and I now realize I've like his. Here's the funny thing is, I think I picked Anderson Silva to beat Jake Paul. I think I picked Nate Diaz to beat Jake Paul. I picked, I don't know if I picked, I feel like I picked Askren because I had to. I think we were doing Jed, we were sharing an article, so I had to pick Askren, but I felt okay about it. And I think I picked Woodley to win the first fight, maybe. And the other thing is, though, if anyone knows my Twitter, I spend a lot of time talking about saying MMA boxers are not good. Like for the in the UFC, there's maybe 20 guys who I would say are actually legitimately good boxers. So I spend all this time slagging MMA boxing, and then every time one of these guys gets matched up with Jake Paul, I say they're going to beat him. It makes no sense. I am completely illogical in this regard. My pick was terrible, and I think I had to draw the line here and say I will never pick an MMA boxer again, outside of a few select names. So, yeah, just bad. Fun fight. Sorry, let me make clear. I was entertained. I did enjoy the fight, but not for any quality of boxing.
I mean, if you were coming to a Jake Paul fight to enjoy it for the quality of boxing, you done goofed, bud.
Yeah.
It's not what it was. But
Yes.
I think that was pretty clearly Jake Paul's best effort in a boxing ring
I
because
want to
he is getting better.
I want to ask about what happened afterwards, because this whole week, as this was ongoing, this sort of through line throughout the week has been this potential rematch in MMA, right? This $10 million offer never really felt real to me, to be honest. It felt sort of like the tattoo bet. It felt sort of just like, hey, here's a thing I throw out ahead of time to maybe get some people talking, drudge up some conversation, and just, bring more eyeballs to whatever we're about to do. The fact that both Nate and Jake spoke about this afterwards, this $10 million rematch that seemingly would be a co-promotion in MMA between PFL and Real Fight Inc., which is Nate Diaz's promotional arm, kind of feels like it might have legs now. Jed, I mean, do you see this? Is this a thing? Is this a real thing that you think will actually happen? That Nate Diaz will get to fight Jake Paul in MMA for $10 million and make maybe the easiest paycheck that anyone in MMA has ever made?
Nah, probably not. Like, I mean, them saying it doesn't make it real. You're saying probably co-promotion. I'm not so sure about that. I haven't heard that coming back I've heard Nate say it has to be a co-promotion. I had never heard any resounding sure we can do that. Uh, I've just heard Jake say we can do it in the PFL.
I think
This
PFL
feels
would 100% do that if Nate Diaz was amenable to it.
I think they might. I'm not certain about that though. And I also just am not certain Jake Paul's going to do this because why would he? Like, why would he? One, Nate already was like, I'll box the dude again, which Jake Paul certainly should do that over fight him in MMA. That's just a much better business decision. And two, I'm not 100% sure we see him step into the PFL. He's got an ownership stake, so this is free promotion for the other company he is invested in. But I will believe they are going to fight in MMA when the cage door closes. And if it happens, terrific for Nate Diaz. What, just free money. The greatest free paycheck in the history of combat sports is what that will be. And because it is it's one of those things, if it sounds like it's too good to be true, it probably is. And of all the things in the history of this sport that have sounded too good to be true, Nate Diaz fighting Jake Paul in a cage is right at the top of that list.
I mean, what do you think, AK? Is this the fight we deserve? Is this the fight that no one deserves? Is this too good to actually happen, or just too hilarious to actually happen?
Oh, we definitely deserve it. I mean, this is what we get for dedicating our lives to combat sports. Shaheen. We deserve to see. I had that weird moment of reflection during actually watching this boxing match. I'm like, holy crap! I am actually watching Nate Diaz box. Wow, Jake Paul. Wow, that was a weird. That's how removed I was from reality. Was that I was like, this is actually happening. Like this is it. 2 or 3. I can't remember how many years ago now. It feels like we're actually like way longer into the influencer boxing era than I'm remembering. Because I was going to say like 2 or 3 years ago this couldn't happen, and I've like 2 years ago, what, Jake Paul was fighting Tyron Woodley already, right? So I don't remember. My dates are all screwed up in my head. But I had that moment of that this reality is so strange that we are in, and so then when I hear something like Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz in MMA, again, right now it's kind of rolling off my back. It's kind of like nothing. But like Jed said, when I actually see it happen, if I actually saw this dude step into a cage and fight, my mind would be blown all over again. It makes no sense because we've had all these moments to like brace ourselves for this. Nothing should surprise us anymore. And I'd probably be okay for like a round. And then once I saw like Jake Paul like take Nate Diaz down or something, my mind would be blown all over again. I was like, what are we doing here? This is such a strange reality that we have found ourselves in. But so I won't say it won't happen. You just can't say that about anything anymore. You can't. It's not possible. Anything is possible in combat sports. If there's personalities and money and influence involved, anything can happen. I just wouldn't bet on it right now. If I had to pick, I don't think it'll happen. But I certainly wouldn't tell people because it's just a weird. Why does Jake Paul want to do this? I don't understand. For the PFL, to expand his sort of brand, as it were, to say like, yes, now I've officially done it. I fought in MMA. I fought against a credible guy. I did it with under my own rules, again, with my own promotion, whichever, or with the PFL, whatever deal he's trying to work out. I understand that the clout. I understand the feat that he's trying to pull off, but he probably would lose that. He'd have to be a huge underdog in that fight. So it's a strange thing. I still think it's a cool thing for him to say.
What? That's why. Yeah, that's why you do it. What do you?
It's
You answered your. AK,
I know.
answered your own question because if you're Jake Paul,
do it.
But if you're Jake Paul and you're this guy who has created really an empire, a combat sports empire, more or less, like making obscene money doing these fights that are handpicked and very, very, tremendously handpicked, right? Like he is a very good matchmaker for himself. He understands his limitations. If you're that guy and you're going to go fight in MMA, which is something that you're not very versed in and a lot of skills that you just don't have, why not do it against Nate Diaz when everyone expects you to lose and it's going to be this massive fight, and it's sort of like some Schadenfreude for everybody, and like a lot of people will pay attention to that rather than going and fighting like Tony Schmuck over there, who is like a 0-0 fighter or 1-0 fighter.
But
like that's
there's
a massive difference in the eyeballs.
Plus, you can do that part later. You can always go fight Tony Schmuck afterwards.
Or he can do both. I think he can find an MMA opponent that he can beat that has a name. That actually has a name. Nothing's coming to my mind right now, but
we're not doing CM Punk again. We're done with CM Punk.
I don't know, but I'm saying there's someone out there. There's some fighter out there who like he know that he can at least coax to sort of stand with him, and if he thinks his stand-up skills are all that, or that his whatever his wrestling background is all that, there's probably a guy out there with a name, an older time. I'm talking about a fighter that's in their late 30s, early 40s, Tony Ferguson.
I swear to God, if you say Tony Ferguson, I knew it was coming.
I wouldn't pick Tony Ferguson. I still think that's a dangerous fight. But I'm saying there's a name at that level that Jake Paul can probably beat. It doesn't have to be Nate
Diaz.
There's
not a name at Nate Diaz's level. What are we talking about?
Not at that. Not, it does,
like
but it does.
It doesn't. Superstar in MMA. What are we?
Jake Paul, but he doesn't have to be Jake Paul.
Weird takes tonight, AK.
No.
AK.
Whoa, no, you're misquoting me. No, Shaheen, stop. You're totally misquoting me. I didn't say that that's the same star level of Nate Diaz. Jake Paul's the A side. Jake Paul was the A side of this fight. Let's not act like Nate Diaz is the A side. That's not what I'm saying. He's a really good B side, but Jake Paul is the A side of this fight. This doesn't happen if Jake Paul doesn't want it to happen, right? This doesn't sell if Jake Paul is not involved, right? If Nate Diaz boxes some other YouTuber,
if Nate Diaz doesn't want it to happen.
That's fine, but it's not. But it's Nate Diaz fighting some other YouTuber doesn't do numbers that him fighting Jake Paul does, right? So Jake Paul's the A side.
They both needed each other.
Jake Paul is the important part of the equation. He can fight another MMA fighter that's not Nate Diaz. It won't be as big as fighting Nate Diaz, but I didn't say it has to be. You're saying that's the only option. I'm saying there's other names out there, and he's proven this time and time again. He keeps finding people to beat up.
AK, I think that's where the disconnect here is. He could fight somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
He is still probably going to lose to them. Maybe he could thread the needle to find one he could beat. Or he can just go into this with open eyes and say, I'm probably going to lose to any actual MMA fighter I fight. Might as well fight the biggest one. So the loss, I get the most money and it doesn't matter because ultimately I lost to the dude I'm supposed to lose to. It's fine. And then I can go fight that guy. Like it would legitimately be crazy for Jake Paul if he is going to make the MMA transition to fight anybody that isn't Conor or Nate in his first MMA fight. You do that. And then if you want to continue pursuing MMA, then you can do your tack and be like, can I fight Jeremy Stevens or whatever? But if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly, you got to fight the biggest draw you can get right off the rip because that experiment is going to end much quicker than your boxing experiment can because that you are now going into foreign territory as opposed to bringing others into your foreign territory.
Yeah, you have a built-in excuse. He has a built-in excuse of why he would lose in 45 seconds to any of these guys. But if you're going to do it, you do it for the most possible.
You guys are. I don't think he wants to, though. I don't think he wants to lose. I think he wants to find someone he can beat. And I think this is the power of this talk he's made, the $10 million talk. You guys can now only. This is how effective it is. Now you guys are only thinking of Nate. That's the power of an advertisement. But he's very good at this. He can find someone else and make a similar offer. Again, I'm not saying it'll be as big as Nate, but if you guys think there's no other options if you guys think there's no other options outside of Nate and Conor, you guys are delusional. I'm telling you right now, you guys are both delusional.
We're only thinking about Nate because it's literally the fight that was proffered. If he had said,
that's why I'm saying the $10 million call out is so effective because now it's like, oh, it's all I can think of. It's a $10 million. That's why he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to do it. Just by saying it, he's already got guys like you thinking, oh, It already empowers the Jake Paul brand just by saying it. Just by saying he doesn't have to do it.
AK here, because I think you're actually being legitimately crazy, and we probably have other things to talk about than the three of us bicker about this. You sit in, while we continue to discuss, work on who that name is, and I will tell you why you're wrong. Because if you can find a better name than Conor or Nate for him to fight in his first MMA fight,
I didn't say it has to be better. Again, I'm not going to do
it.
That's
exactly what you just argued.
I 100% said it doesn't have to be bigger than Nate or Conor. Listen, with your
ears, better. I didn't say bigger. I said
you
better.
Said better. You said better. I'm saying there isn't a better option than those two, but I'm saying he can find another option. It doesn't have to be better. You're not listening to me.
Okay, why would you take a worse option? No,
it's not worse.
You just
it's a different option.
If it's,
I'm not debating this.
You're really splitting hairs.
I'm not debating this because you've got your own argument you're presenting that I'm not presenting. I didn't say that.
I'm gonna find me a fighter that makes sense, and we can
I'm not engaging in this. I'm not.
I love you both. I love you both. I love the passion. Let's move on because I feel like we could go back and forth on this for the next 10 minutes, and we don't need to. Last thing on this fight, and then we could move on because I do want to hit UFC because UFC card happened tonight, and I don't know how many people were paying attention to it.
It's a good show.
For the last, I don't even know. When did the Askren fight happen? 2021, I think, right? That was 2021?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah. No, that might have been 2020 because it was peak COVID. Hold on. I'll look it up.
It was 2021. It was early 2021. So essentially for 3 years now, a large portion of our attention every few months has been thrust into this narrative of Jake Paul versus MMA guys in boxing. To me, that feels like tonight was the end of it. Tonight was the death knell. Tonight was the final chapter of it. Unless somehow, I don't know how this would happen, but the UFC lets Conor McGregor become a free agent at some point if he ever fights again and fights out his contract. And then Jake Paul can convince Conor to come and sort of be the final boss of this equation for himself. If not, to me, this feels like I don't know where else you can go with it because you have sort of reached the top of the star ladder. Do you disagree with me? Does it feel like this is finally the end of, at least in the boxing realm, Jake Paul versus our MMA legends?
Yeah, I hope probably. So.
I think so. I think Conor is happening, but that may be years down the line. But I think from day one, Conor Jake was the end game. That is the actual final fight of it. And so I still believe that is the likely final outcome, but it may take a while. But who else would he fight from an MMA standpoint? He's not going to fight Francis.
That would be amazing, though. What if he did, though? PFL, they're both the PFL. PFL could make it happen. There you go. Get your money's worth, PFL. I don't know. I agree on this. I agree with Jed as far as boxing goes. This was great. McGregor has to happen someday. It just feels like there's too much money involved for it not to. Like I said, if there's that much money involved, they're gonna make it happen. But is it next? I don't know. I don't think we see it next or for a while, right?
You could maybe sell me on Masvidal. If he wants to, if
he's still under contract, there's no way they would let him.
At some point, that contract has to run out on a time standpoint. You could sell me on it, but I don't know. I
don't think that's true.
I'm not saying that it's likely. You could sell me that would be a fight, but other than that, who else even sort of could be the name?
I do think I'm not 100% certain, obviously, but I do think once a fighter sort of files the retirement necessaries for that, the contract essentially freezes in perpetuity. That's why GSP couldn't fight Oscar De La Hoya pretty recently.
It didn't freeze in perpetuity because he did exit his contract recently. So freezes at some point.
It pushes it kicks the can down the road then. Yeah. I think this is probably the end of the story. I just don't see a way where Conor is sort of freed to do this sort of thing and also capable enough at that point in whatever his stage of life he is to actually care about a fight. But we'll see. To me, this feels like the end. And if this is the end, I'm happy for it. It was a weird few years. And now we can move on to actual UFC content because there was a UFC event tonight out there in Nashville. A lot of boos in the main event of this one. Corey Sandhagen gets it done, though. Absolutely smothers Rob Font out there. 7-7 on takedowns. Apparently Dana White walked out during the fourth round. Not a great sign. Never really what you want to see when you're trying to impress the boss. But afterwards, Corey Sandhagen saying he tore his tricep in the first round, so he fought through it. Either way, that is now 3 straight wins for Corey Sandhagen over 3 very tough names in this 135-pound division. He is peaking right now. Jed, takeaways from what you saw from that.
Well, first, Shaheen, because a lot of people are commenting it and we're all dumb. Mike Perry is still very much in play. Whether you want to call him an MMA fighter at this juncture, but that is certainly like
Yeah.
in play. As far as the UFC card, man, that main event was not fun to watch. And our esteemed producer Casey disagrees with me. It We don't have to pretend. It was a very good performance from Corey Sandhagen, and one that I will never ever watch back because it felt awful for a lot of it. But the rest of the card was okay. Certainly, the main card in general delivered pretty good stuff. The 2 decisions in the early parts of the main card were at least kind of fun fights, and then a lot of cool finishes. So I gave this a 1 star coming in, and it probably lived up to that. I mean, you're going away with a poor taste in your mouth from the main event if you are most people with eyeballs and a discerning palate, but you can at least appreciate that it was really good, really, really tactically impressive. And then you got to watch the Paul Diaz for your ugly slobber knocker. That was fun. So all in all, good night of fights, and Nashville was okay.
Oh, I like that you've brought back up the star system. Would you consider this a win for the Shooting Stars system? A 1 for 1 so far?
Meshulin star. Meshulin star.
Yeah, I think we're going Meshew and Star.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Meshew and-
That's a bummer.
The Michelin star feels, I felt like a 1, just with a bad dessert at the end of the meal, or an uninspiring, not bad, just an uninspiring, like a vanilla ice cream to close out the meal, leaving you wanting a little bit more. But all in all, the card was mostly good. I will say, because I'm sure Casey is fuming as I trash Corey Sandhagen's technically brilliant, horrible fight, because anyone who watched it knows that there were a reason for the boos. I will say, in my defense of this position, if you're a homie trying to fight for a title shot, that's probably not getting you it, man. And like Corey Sandhagen deserves to fight for the belt next. I think he is a really good chance that he is going to have to fight somebody else before he gets a title shot. Because as you said, I think Shaheen, when the big boss man bounces on your fight in the 4th round, that's not doing wonders for your title hopes.
Well, you stole the question right out of my mouth, because afterwards, Corey Sandhagen on the mic makes it clear, I want next. I want that title shot. I want whatever this is going to be, right? This bantamweight division's in a very curious place right now. We don't know if what we're about to see in 2 weeks is Aljamain Sterling's last defense of this belt. We don't know if this is going to be a vacant title. If he wins, Sean O'Malley still could win it as well. Lots of options on the table. Merab's sort of the next man up. AK, was tonight for you and what you saw from Corey Sandhagen, is that you're clearly getting the next title shot type of performance, or is that you're probably going back and fighting Umar Nurmagomedov again? Sorry, guy, type of performance?
Guys, this may surprise you. I do up a poll. I'm known to do it. Who was Saturday's biggest star? I did have to leave out some good names. We can talk about Tatiana Suarez later. Probably should have been. Oh, sorry, she is in the poll. Excuse me. Amanda Serrano had an amazing performance against Heather Hardy on the Paul Diaz card. I should have put her in there, but really, it had to be. You only get 4 options on YouTube. Had to be Jake Paul, Nate Diaz, Corey Sandhagen, Tatiana Suarez. To the surprise of no one, currently Nate Diaz leading with 55%.
Sounds right.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yep.
It's not going well for Corey Sandhagen right now. 8%. 8% for Corey.
That is more than I thought, and more than he deserved. Straight up, more than he deserves.
The Michelin star system, by the way, working perfectly so far, because you gave it a pre-fight 1. And you kind of, I don't think it did anything to elevate to another star, because 2 stars is like if you're within driving distance, right? You would go to the show. So
yeah,
that's the 2-star rating. Is like
willing to make
do a road trip,
detour. I would take a detour to go see it. Go out of my way to go attend this card.
And I think extrapolating from that, if you were in Nashville and you bought a ticket, you had a great time, loved the show. If you had driven from out of town, you might be
if I had driven up to this event, I would be less stoked about it. If I lived in Nashville, I would have been totally fine having gone to that card.
Yeah, so I think that's accurate, and I'm not going to dog Corey's performance. Winning is everything. You got to keep winning, but you're completely correct. There's almost I don't want to say no way because I do think, like I said, the good thing about winning is it keeps you on the short list. It keeps you on the short list. If someone gets hurt, you can have that coveted backup spot, which people love, and supposedly guarantees title shots if you're as long as you're Colby Covington. So it's good. It's good he did what he did. I had almost wondered my pre-fight prediction. I kind of thought it would be more of a stand-up battle, and Sandhagen would be the first guy to knock Font out. But there was a part of me in my mind was wondering, is he going to try and mix the martial arts? Rob Font has pretty good takedown defense, so that's why I thought it might not be the best way. But
he does not, apparently.
Or Sandhagen's a decent wrestler. I thought Sandhagen's wrestling looked okay.
No, his wrestling did,
strategy,
but
yeah.
You don't have a good wrestling defense if you give up 100% of takedowns attempted on you.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
It's just you can't do that. Like, I don't care if Jordan Burroughs is shooting on you. You should at least be able to freaking limp leg out of one of them. One of them.
He went down pretty easily. I think, and I'm not disrespecting Rob Font. Rob Font's a great fighter, but it wasn't his best night. And Jed, you're right, from a takedown defense standpoint. If you had never seen Rob Font fight before, you would have thought he has the worst takedown defense in the world. So, but credit to Corey Sandhagen. He did what he had to win. The chances of him getting like locked in, booked for a title fight, highly unlikely. He's either the backup for one of these for a title fight, future title fight, or he's on the replacement list, short notice replacement list, which he's already done. And I don't know if he wants to do that again. He had to do that with Piotr Jan. So from Corey Sandhagen, that kind of sucks. So I'm just on the replacement list again. So could have done more, but hey, good for him. Gets his win, gets his winner's check, and could be worse.
Shaheen, can we play a game real quick?
I love this. Whatever's happening, you're laughing it up, so I'm here for it.
I just pulled up the stats. I hope you haven't taken a look at the stats. Would y'all care to fancy a guess at the significant strikes per UFC stats landed by Corey Sandhagen across 25 minutes in this fight?
Oh,
You know what? I'm going to give you an over/under. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
I was about to guess under. I was about to guess low.
Over/under is 45.5.
Under.
AK, do you know the answer?
I don't. I haven't checked. I'll say slightly over.
34. 34 strikes. 7 for 7 on takedown defense. On takedown attempts. This man landed just over 1 significant strike per minute of fight time. Dominant performance, no question. Awful performance as well to watch.
People in the comments saying 19, 11, 3. So the optics, not great, apparently. Apparently it looked even worse for people just kind of maybe casually watching the fight.
So Jed.
And it's just one of those things. This happens sometimes, and that's okay. But like, we don't have to stand it. We just be like, oh, he won it. No questions asked. What Dominic Cruz was saying in commentary, your first job is to win. He absolutely did it. He's going to get both his paychecks, and he did not drop down the rankings, but in the entertainment aspect of the sport, he failed horrifically tonight. And that matters ultimately, as even Casey will admit, because Casey, when Curtis Blades got pummeled by Pavlovich, was like, well, maybe he came out there trying to strike because wrestling doesn't do him anything. Corey Sandhagen might find that lesson out too, if this is the new Corey Sandhagen.
Jed, if you had to put,
can I defend Corey? Can I defend Corey?
I think we need that.
Please,
right
Casey,
now,
please.
Your
name has been. I
don't come until the end of the show, but
defend him. We've invoked
the man ripped his tricep. Why are we not going? What a freaking warrior! What a warrior!
I want to be clear. We don't know that at all. He just said it.
Oh, Corey Sandhagen, the liar. The liar. You calling Corey Sandhagen?
Tito said he cracked his skull every fight.
We know Tito is a liar. We know that.
He said,
Corey Sandhagen is a freaking samurai. Samurais do not lie.
In the first round. We have
no
idea if he did that at all.
Tito catching a stray. Come on, guys.
A lot of people catching strays today.
Oh.
I'm just loving the passion from everybody. I feel like y'all are about to fight each other consistently.
Hey. in this whole, he won't get a title shot. Remember TJ Dillashaw in that crappy performance where he basically lost the fight against Corey Sandhagen but still won the fight, and he got a title shot. So many fighters get title shots after boring wins.
It was
Casey.
exciting, but it wasn't. But that fight wasn't boring.
Casey.
That was an exciting fight.
Casey,
Yeah.
let me ask you, and I want you to be honest with me, okay? If you, gun to your head, had to put your entire life savings, you and Esther's entire life savings, everything in your bank account, on either
$14.
Corey Sandhagen is going to be in the title mix in his next fight, whether that's a title fight or a backup spot for the title fight, or he's fighting Umar Nurmagomedov next, which one of those two options are you putting all of your money on?
Is Umar coming back like in 3 months? We're talking like 3 months or whatever.
Just whenever the dude fights next.
So if O'Malley wins, are they gonna rematch Aljo?
If O'Malley wins, Merab probably gets it.
Merab. I mean, I still think Merab is in front because it's.
So he fights Umar Nurmagomedov, is what you're telling me.
He could. But there was no guarantee. Even if he knocked out Font in 30 seconds, there was no guarantee he was getting title shot tonight at all.
It would have helped. It would
I
have
don't
helped.
think so. I don't think so.
I don't think it would have hurt.
I
I don't think it
so.
would have hurt. I think if your boss leaves before
I
your
think-
fight is over, you ain't doing yourself favors, man.
Oh, because he didn't slap Rob Font.
I mean, look,
Dana White loves slapping.
I'm not
That's
here.
his thing. We
I am not
know he
here
does
to
not like grappling. We know he does not like wrestling. We know he likes slapping. Slapping is what
Casey,
he
I'm
likes.
not here to defend Dana White as a good person or as the moral arbiter of the world, but we don't have to live in this false reality where it isn't a bad thing when Dana leaves. That is ultimately the dude who decides if he fights for the belt, and he is not feeling him. Ask Magomed Ankalaev, probably the best light heavyweight on earth, who didn't even fight poorly, but had the audacity to have a draw.
How
and
did
now
Ankalaev
he's
get
in
a
the
title shot?
doghouse.
What was his fight before his title shot? Ankalaev's fight before.
I think he ran through somebody very quickly, right?
Was that Anthony Smith? I don't racket. I don't know.
It wasn't. I remember
maybe?
it wasn't something that blew us away. It was just a fight. I'm just saying.
Either way, the point is, it doesn't
Corey
take
Sandhagen
much.
does
No,
not-
he
Corey
demolished
Doghouse.
Anthony Smith. He demolished
Okay.
Anthony Smith.
All right, fair enough. But Corey Sandhagen, look at his resume. One fight sucked.
Yeah.
As terms of entertainment. One fight. And I don't know. I just think the fans just Corey Sandhagen. He is the new most boring fighter ever. A fight that no one even watched.
I don't think anybody's saying that.
Oh,
Look,
dude.
I think people are just rightly saying that fight was boring. We don't have to condemn.
I
Corey's entire
say it's boring, but I don't think this
You don't-
eliminates Corey Sandhagen from a title. The
No,
title.
but
I just think
That's all. Career.
I think mostly he's a victim of circumstance because this bantamweight division is so deep, and right now there is already 3 people who are sort of in that mix, and he's the odd guy out because there's about to be 2 people when Aljo leaves, and he's then the last one out.
I'll jump out of here though. I just wanted to complain a bit.
But Casey, I will say I appreciate that perspective because I do think acknowledging,
Definitely.
man, just if the tricep thing is legitimate, which I have no reason to not believe Corey Sandhagen, he is a very
And that's why Dana
straightforward
White's a
person.
bad
I do.
promoter.
He's not a doctor.
Because that's when Dana White goes like,
Okay, but
he's a
he's
freaking
also-
warrior. You know, like he came out there and still fought 25 minutes against Rob Font, who had everything on the line. Rob Font's 36 years old. This was Rob Font's last chance to get to really get a true title shot. Rob Font's out. He's done. We're never gonna see Rob Font in a title run. Right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
Yeah. So
I
think that's super impressive.
I want to
That's all.
add this here.
Not entertaining, but impressive.
Sure, it is impressive, and I absolutely agree. Dane's a bad promoter. I will say the other side of this that isn't going to get talked about, and it's fine, and it probably shouldn't, because ultimately at the end of fights, the onus goes on the winner to have provided more entertainment, and maybe that's wrong, but like that's just sort of how this works. Rob Font was awful, like just historically bad this evening, which played an enormous role in why this fight was as trash as it was. So, like, if you want to direct your ire at Rob Font's performance, I'm fine with that too. My issue is just, well, Rob Font is the loser, so I don't need to pile on him as the loser. He's already suffering the consequences of that. Whereas Corey Sandhagen, just like when Izzy was boring in title fights, was saying the exact same things. It's like, we don't have to pretend that that's fun. It is a good win that matters, and that's the most important thing. But this is probably not doing you long-term favors. And hopefully that this isn't Corey Sandhagen's new thing. There's no reason to believe it will be, because like he's just historically been a really fun fighter. But it was shocking to see how little activity this fight had in that regard.
And I will add on to that. Sorry, Casey, but I will add. I just want to say, fans do have a habit of only remembering your last fight. you could be the most
You're-
exciting fighter, and you put on one stink bomb, and people just keep pointing to that, like, oh yeah, but remember when he fought Rob Font? Remember he just wrestled Rob Font? And it's like, what about this spinning wheel kick knockout? What about this incredible fight of the year he had with Piotr Jan? It's like, yeah, but when he fought Rob Font though, wrestled.
Dude, knee and
Right in
Frankie into the moon was great.
I've chosen to forget about that, and I'm angry that you brought it up.
But I'm glad you talked about Rob Font, because I think even Tyson said this even when they cut to the corner. It's like, Rob Font, you got to take some chances. You got to give up your back. You got to take some chances. As impressive but boring Corey was, Rob Font shit the bed tonight too.
Rob Font may have set a record tonight. I got to figure out how to look this up. 25 minutes of fighting, 9 significant strikes. There aren't a lot of people that have pulled that particular trick off. 9 significant in 25 minutes. Usually if you're going to have 9 significant strikes, it means you got. That is impressive.
Man, think about if you would have came into this fight and you would have told me these would be the significant strikes over 25 minutes for both fighters, over
less than
Corey
50?
Sandhagen and Rob Font. That is nuts. That is nuts.
Jed, what was the Corey total? 30 something? What was it?
34.
So
They
34 to
combined
9.
for 43
34 to 9.
significant strikes.
Was that
over
more or
25
less
minutes.
was that more or less than Rose
So
versus Carla?
hold
Was
on.
Ooh, let's look that up. That's a great
the
question,
barometer.
Casey.
That's the barometer.
That is such a good
So,
point, Casey. I'm gonna look that up.
Less
right
than
now.
2 combined significant strikes per minute over the course.
But
of
we
this
did
fight.
have 20 minutes of control time, so you know.
I love me some control time.
Hey, nothing gets the people going more.
Oh wow. Okay, Casey, this one is really. I did not realize this. This is bad. Rose Namajunas and Carlos Esparza at least combined for 67 strikes over 25.
New record. This has got to be the record then. I would be
Oh
stunned
my
if this-
God.
It has to be the record for fewest significant strikes in a 25-minute fight. Yeah, it has to
Oh,
be.
hold on.
Last
Now,
one I want you
granted-
to look up. I want to move on because we need to move on. But last one, while I'm doing that,
Oh, I love this game. I will play this game all night long as we try and
Can you
find
look
the worst
up
fights of all time.
while I'm setting up the next thing, can you look up Woodley Maya and Woodley Wonderboy 2?
Oh, that's definitely going to be over.
That's the only one I
I'll-
could think of
I'll
that
look
would
'em up.
maybe
That went 25
Get there?
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that went
All
a
right.
full 25.
Woodley Wonderboy 2, they combined for over 100 strikes. Both dudes were in the 50s. Woodley Maya, why can't I see you? God, he fought a lot of dudes.
By the way, while Jed is looking, I see
Did.
people saying worst fight of the year. We had Menfio and who's his best friend?
Schulte, Hans
It's true.
Schulte.
Maya landed
and Schulte. And
28.
it's
What was it?
28 for Maya, Woodley 57.
So still,
I think we got it.
Those are out of the
good
water.
chance this is the fewest.
that was
combined
Gotti. That was
significant
Gotti
strikes
Ward
in a
compared to
25-minute
tonight.
fight.
Scotty Ward compared.
Statistically, this was a bad one, guys.
Maybe
19
not-
minutes of control time for Corey Sandhagen, though.
Again, maybe not the conversation you want after your main event fight when you're trying to get a title fight. But I want to move on. I need to move on.
All right, sorry.
okay. Let's
We
play
need to
Jed.
move on
Please.
because I've been waiting. I don't know how long we've been doing this, but I've been waiting like 50 minutes to talk about Tatiana Suarez because I need to talk about Tatiana Suarez. This woman is unbelievable. She just trucked through Jessica Andrade today. Like it was nothing. That is now the second UFC champ she has on her resume and the second time she has beaten a UFC champ without it really looking difficult at all. And now we talked about it on the preview show, but this is the first time since 2018 that she has fought twice in 1 year. It feels like things have finally come together for her. This is maybe the only run or the chance that she will get it health permitted. AK, were you impressed by this? Was this what you expected?
It was 100% what I expected. I think we noted in our Slack channel, we all predicted that this would end in the second round.
Literally all of us
second
had
submission. Yeah, because Jessica Andrade is tough, so we were like, well, she'll probably, the size, the wrestling is probably too much for Andrade to do anything in round one. But again, her durability, her grappling defense should keep her in it. So this is exactly, you can go to MMAfighting.com, my predictions. This was one that I actually got fairly correctly. It's just not a matchup that Andrade has had good history with. Erin Blanchfield's a strong grappler, obviously completely woman handled her. Valentina Shevchenko is a very, very good wrestler when she wants to be, and she used that to completely diffuse Andrade at moments in their fight and get the finish on the ground. So, yeah, it kind of went as you would expect, and that does not lessen how impressive it is. Let's not forget, Tatiana Suarez was off for a long time. Technically, this was her first fight back at 115 in like almost 4 years or something. The Montana De La Rosa fight, it doesn't really matter whether it happened at 125 or not. It was an impressive comeback, but you did want to see her in there with a legitimate 115 contender. And it was supposed to be Viana Jandiroba. It turned out to be Jessica Andrade instead, an even bigger name, arguably a tougher test. I don't know. I think the Jandiroba matchup's a little different. So yeah, great for Tatiana Suarez. We're only in a little murky situation now. We have Yan Xiaonan out there. It looked like she had just beaten Jessica Andrade, and so how could someone who does the same thing as her leapfrog her for a title shot? I don't know. And making them fight each other seems silly. So we've got a bit of a log jam, but it's kind of a good log jam to have. We have legitimate intrigue at the top of 115, and that's good to see. And super fantastic news for Tatiana Suarez, who everyone thinks will be a champion someday, and has done nothing to deter people from that opinion.
I love it. I said it on the preview show. I have had season tickets for this woman for like 8 years now, and I was trying so desperately to sell those season tickets at a certain point because it just felt like it wasn't going to happen. But there were no buyers, and now I'm glad I'm still here holding these tickets because I've been saying she's going to be a champion for pretty much the entirety of her UFC career, and now it feels like we finally might have an opportunity here. Jed, I know you weren't all the way back on the train. You were still waiting to see. Are you on the train now? Do you believe?
I mean, I wasn't all the way back on the train. I just wanted to see her come back the first time because it had been 4 years. But after she washed Montana De La Rosa, I thought the same thing everyone does. She's going to kill Jessica Andrade, and she's probably going to continue to march her way to get that belt. Yeah, it was a great performance from her. She looked better on the feet than normal. Still feels a little shifty there. Like she's not super like the most comfortable person in the world. Under live fire exercises, but she was more than competent enough. And I mean, the ground game is such an advantage for her, particularly in this matchup. It was a great performance. She has done all the things in this comeback. She got her feet wet, got back into the groove, makes the drop to 115 successfully, looked gigantic against Andrade in there. Again, a woman who was number 3 at flyweight not that long ago. Maybe she has to fight again just because of the way the timelines are going to work at 115 now. But whenever she fights for the belt, I'll be picking her to win it.
Is there? Let me follow up with that then, because is there a single woman right now at 115 that you would not pick her to beat?
No, I mean I think Zhang is the most competitive. Rose might be interesting, but it appears that Rose is no longer doing that. Zhang would be the most competitive, but Rose took Zhang down a bunch, and Rose is not nearly the wrestler that Tatiana Suarez is. So the physicality, the danger Zhang poses on the feet certainly is something. Yan Xiaonan obviously looked amazing in her most recent fight against Andrade, but I need more from her to not believe she wouldn't get dummied. Yeah, I would make her a betting favorite over any woman at 115 pounds at this moment, and I would take that action. At really pretty close to whatever reasonable line is out there for her. I think she's the best.
What do you think,
Jan not too long ago got handled by Carlos Esparza, right? If you will go back and watch that fight, you would have thought Yan Xiaonan's not getting anywhere near a title shot. And Tatiana Suarez, I think we'd all agree, is maybe the best offensive wrestler. Is the best offensive wrestler in the division. Certainly a step above Carla. I don't see how Yan would fare in that fight. I like the Zhang matchup too. Because I think Zhang brings this at like a level of athleticism that's always going to give her a chance in any fight, in addition to all her skill as well. But if you're going to fight Tatiana Suarez, you got to have some degree of like super strength, athleticism, and Zhang has those things. So I like her chance there. So I wouldn't. But I'm with you guys. I would pick Tatiana Suarez over everyone at 115. But it wouldn't be like I wouldn't put her like minus 200 over Zhang, like minus 150. I'd like comfortably favor her. But by no means would I say, oh, Zhang has no chance, because I think Zhang's a very legit champion. And I hope we do get to see that fight. And if I have to choose between Yan versus Suarez and Zhang versus Suarez, Yan versus Zhang and Suarez versus Zhang, sorry, Yan Xiaonan, I'm picking Suarez all the way. I really want to see this fight.
That's where I'm at. I don't know what's going to happen next with the strawweight division. It feels like Yan Xiaonan will probably get that opportunity just to do the China versus China fight in China, because that's obviously a very big fight if Amanda Lemos loses to Zhang coming up here. But I just feel like I don't know when the next time we'll be able to get a healthy run for Tatiana Suarez is, and I just want to see her get this opportunity. So if it's me, I'm striking while the iron's hot. Like I'm just doing it now. Screw it. I don't need to see anymore. Like we have all known for so many years at this point that this woman is capable of this. Like if this is the 1 year or 2 year stretch where she's going to be healthy, give her that opportunity. Jed, you're shaking your head no.
She's not going to get it just because of the timing. We were talking about this in the pre-fight Q&A. I don't know how long Vincenzo was out. That's who she was originally supposed to fight this weekend. So maybe that timeline will that kind of plays here. But I think Jan Wiley is going to beat him in a Lemos, and then they're going to do the Yan Xiaonan fight. That just makes the most sense. And Jan deserves her shot. Like I'm not here to say Jan does not deserve the shot. And frankly, it is maybe not as fair to be like, hey, you haven't fought 4 years. You beat Montana De La Rosa up a weight class, which doesn't matter. And you beat this woman who Yan Xiaonan also just beat arguably even more dominantly than you. I think Yan has deserved her shot at the gold. I know it wouldn't be what I would want if I got to choose how the world ran, but I think Jan's going to get it. And so we're probably going to get a Tatiana Suarez fight, which is good because I don't want to see her wait out a year to wait for a title shot when she can just go dummy Virna Jandiroba or whoever else is sort of around in the mix at that point.
Yeah, we'll have to see. This is the most interesting division in the women's divisions for me, easily, right now at least, just because of this. This to me has injected a level of interest that I think we would previously talk about flyweight when we talk about most interesting women's divisions. To me, this is now it. Let's move on, though. No, just hitting the rest of sort of the UFC card. I mean, Dustin Jacoby out there with a quick knockout of Kennedy Njoku, hard right hand, maybe a bit of an early stoppage, but still a very good win for Dustin Jacoby. Tanner Boser picks up his first win at light heavyweight. Carlston Curtis out there with a crazy comeback over Jeremiah Wells, choked him to sleep with a third round anaconda. But for me, my other star of the card was that man, Diego Lopez, because that dude was just ultra impressive again. 98 seconds, blows through Gavin Tucker with the triangle armbar. You probably remember him from just kind of like putting up a really surprisingly tough fight in his debut against Movsar Evloev. I'm really high on this guy. I'm really interested to see where this guy goes next. AK, who was your next star from the card? Who stood out to you outside of the big two fights?
I just want to put some shine a couple of guys, actually, because we didn't talk about bonuses, right? Did you guys see the official bonuses?
I did.
They gave out five. They did five performance of the night bonuses. Tatiana Suarez, Dustin Jacoby, Diego Lopez, yes, Carlson Harris, and Asu Omabayev. Correct. So all the finishes. Asu was great. I kind of wouldn't have. I don't want to say not have given him the bonus, but I would have liked to have seen a fight of the night because I thought Cody Durden versus Jake Hadley was pretty great. Jose made a tweet like, let's normalize giving fight of the night to like grappling heavy contests. And I guess that's what happened here is it was mostly a grappling battle. I thought super exciting. There was blood, which normally, the UFC loves. But again, I guess one, it was not enough striking. Two, it was flyweights, and they don't want to give flyweights any credit. So I would have liked to see him get a fight of the night. So I'll say my two stars, props to Cody Durden, Jake Hadley. Really great fight, I thought. A little surprised that it was that Jake Hadley didn't get any of the judges' scorecards, but doesn't really matter. Cody Durden won, and I think both guys are great parts of the flyweight division.
Jed, who stuck out to you?
Oh, I don't know. Diego Lopez was a good choice. I mean, good for Dustin Jacoby. It's a great win. But we know what Dustin Jacoby is. He's going to hover around the top 15, and that's going to be the extent of where he goes in the light heavyweight division. So it's really fun. Like it was really cool. Great, a great little short hook in the inside. Got him. This fight card sort of delivered on all the expectations I had. I'll say Asu Almabayev in the opener against Ode Osborne came in with some hype, but really didn't know what to expect. And Ode Osborne's not the greatest fighter in the world, but Almabayev kind of took it to him, got the finish, cut a fairly decent promo for his first time in the UFC. But all the rest of the fights, like I'll push back AK on the Durden Hadley thing not getting fight of the night because I just thought there were a bunch of other quality fights. Like Billy Q, Damon Jackson was fun as hell. You could have, like, if
Yeah,
that
that
had
was good
one
too,
fight of the
yeah.
night, I wouldn't have had an
Yeah.
issue. I think it was just they didn't really know what to pick because none of the fights really stood out as better than Fight of the Nights. And so just like we'll just give everybody who got a finish a bonus, and that's fine as well. So a lot of most of the fights delivered. I'll admit I didn't see a lot of the Kyler Phillips Jaime Barcelos fight. I was watching pro wrestling for the website at that point in time. Because that's part of my job, apparently.
Oh, I left the name
So,
off. I should have put Logan Paul in the poll.
but yeah, like I thought most of the fights delivered. Look, Dennis Bazooka did okay in his debut. If I'm only picking one, give me Almabayev just because I always love having a new flyweight in town with some level of a pedigree and a good debut performance, and that's exactly what we got there.
I love that you're just rolling with the bazooka thing. It's consistency, man. That's why we love you. You're
And can I
consistent.
Bazooka.
Can I?
Great bazooka.
I know we've been going long. Can I shout out Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy again? Because I feel like I kind of glossed over it, and like that was such a fun fight. It was a rematch that probably really, let's be honest, nobody was asking for. I think it was for Heather Hardy. It was like 2 fights ago. There's no doubt that Amanda Serrano is a better boxer than her. But we've said time and time again, like good for Heather Hardy, who's been, a champion in boxing when she's probably making less around the same as as a 3-fight UFC veteran again while she was holding world titles in boxing, and now she's making the money. Now she made money with Bellator. Now she's making that that money being on an influencer boxer card, and she deserves it because that fight was awesome. I don't know if she's going to retire. I don't think she hinted at it at all. But if this is the last time we see Heather Hardy compete in combat sports, I salute her. I think she's always been pretty fun to watch. The good with the bad, some of the MMA stuff. It wasn't pretty, but hey, she gave it the old college try, and Amanda Serrano was just awesome. So it was a really fun fight, and to the end, it was actually like somewhat competitive. Like I think Serrano was the clear winner, but Heather Hardy was in it all the whole way, not just being a punching bag, throwing back, good stuff. Was really a joy to watch.
Good stuff. Also, we didn't mention Chris Avila, kind of looking like
Yes.
pretty half decent against Jeremy Stevens. Pretty surprising, even though he missed weight. Altogether, lots of fights, lots of stuff happened tonight. Casey, get back in here. And meanwhile, while we're talking about positivity, of course, Sandhagen in his press conference defending his performance with the quote, "To me, that's beautiful martial arts." Unquote.
There you go.
So,
Settled.
man's happy.
It's settled.
We don't have to lie to ourselves. We just don't have to lie to ourselves, man.
Yeah, it's settled.
Martial arts. It was horrible
settled.
prize fighting. It's
We have
two different
I
things.
just feel like we have this conversation all the time.
I know we
It's
have it a
like,
lot. Yeah.
We don't have
Let's
to
get some
pretend
questions.
that
And Corey
Esparza
Sandhagen
dominated
is not
this
a
was
prize
fun.
fighter. That's a problem. He is not a prize fighter.
That
hear
is
from
going
the
to be a
peeps.
problem for him in his career.
Hey, yeah. All right. Question.
What are the peeps saying? What's going on in the comment section?
Oops. Hold on a second.
This is coming from Adam S. The real question: how much did Nate get paid tonight? Any guess?
We always talk about this big
8
bag, but
figures.
I haven't heard a number thrown around.
He definitely got 8 figures minimum. I know that for a fact.
8 figures.
So if they're offering
can't-
$10 million for the MMA match, that's 8 figures, right? Yeah. 10.
Yes,
10,
but did you see? I saw a tweet from our good pal Mark Ramondi, who was transcribing some of the press conference, and this is right here in front of me. Diaz's rep Zach Rosenfield says the MMA fight with Paul won't be $10 million, implying that Diaz will demand more. So could be closer in the range of what he got for this fight, maybe.
Zach is like a low key. Most people don't know who this man is, and he has made Nate Diaz so much damn money over the course of the last 5-6 years. Zach is really good at this stuff, man.
Dude, yeah, if Jake's gonna offer you $10 million, then you ask for 15. Or whatever. You ask for 20, and then you settle at 15.
Yep.
So yeah. Jake, yeah. Oh man. Awesome.
I have a question for y'all, Casey, while you look for one, because we talked about it in the pre-fight Q&A, and I don't know if someone's going to ask it. What are y'all's guesses for pay-per-view buys here?
650.
Whoa. That's super
Just,
high.
just looking at metrics, looking at traffic throughout the week, I was very surprised. I don't think that's crazy. I've been so surprised throughout the week at the traffic this event is bringing, the interest it's driving, the Google results, all the trends, all of it. This fight was infinitely bigger than Anderson Silva fight was. It was infinitely bigger than the Woodley 2 fight was. This felt like the biggest Jake Paul situation in a really long time, and 650 to me minimum.
Jed, you're saying a mil?
I went a
Seven.
mill because we were answering this in the pre-fight Q&A, and like, look, take these numbers with an enormous grain of salt. But the wiki pay-per-view numbers for Jake Paul say that his fight with Askren did 1.5. I think that's the Triller number. I would say that that's probably almost certainly not true. But said he did 800 for the Fury fight, like 300 for Silva. This feels bigger than the Fury fight to me. Like, this feels Nate Diaz should do more than that, I would think. So I went for a mill.
I don't think that's crazy.
I guess not. I guess my estimate was so low. I'm supposed to be the Prince of Positivity though, so I can't go lower. So I'll do the Price is Right thing, and I'll vulture over the next lowest one. I'll say 800K. 800K.
Fantastic work.
I have a special guest to bring in, gentlemen.
I love guests. Is it the iconic?
It is like, why is that not working? Hold on.
He's building this anticipation.
Yeah, suspense. I gotta. All right. Here we go. Don't get too excited yet. Why is this not?
Is it Jake Paul?
This is just tremendous live television.
Yeah, I know.
Is it the robot? You got the robot? You got one of the or both?
I can't. Why is this thing not coming out?
Why did Nate not have his own robot? We should have the Nate Jake robots fight.
Are these actually the same? Are these actually the same guys in the robot suits every time?
Oh, no.
Probably not, right? But maybe not.
No. Okay. And who are they? They're DAZN's robots. They're DAZN's robots or they're Showtime's robots? Showtime boxing robots.
They're Jake Paul. They're Jake Paul's robots.
They're Jake Paul's personal robots?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got money like that.
Yeah.
He can have personal.
He came with a tank today. He rode a tank in today.
I
So
didn't see the tank.
I didn't notice
it was
that.
pretty impressive.
Hold on.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive.
Sorry. All right. Hold on. Why is this not working? It should be working.
You might
This
have to
is
tell us
such
who it
good.
is.
I know. I'm sorry.
Such good TV.
Yeah,
Mr.
we
Guest,
gotta go here
can
soon.
you unmute Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Guest? Is it muted?
Mr.
We gotta
Guest.
go here soon. I'm getting the boot. We got work to do.
Where are you? Wait. Can you, is that? I didn't.
That I am not.
What a guess!
Okay.
What a guess!
You know what? You know what?
It didn't work. It didn't work.
Okay.
I see how this. I see how you think, Casey.
Well,
all of us bald people look similar.
Yeah.
We all look alike. We're all
my best
interchangeable.
friend Mike Heck on site in
we
Dallas. I
we
guess he
tried
couldn't
bringing him
join
in,
us.
but it wasn't working.
That's all right.
I had him for a
That's
moment,
all
but
right.
we had internet issues. Sorry.
All right. Well, let's hit one more, and then we do have to get out of here.
Yeah. One
Yeah,
more.
is there another question?
I don't have a good question. I think we've covered everything so well.
Yeah, I see a lot of comments. I don't know if I see too many questions. People, this is your chance. I see a lot of potentially new viewers. If you've never been on the show before, this is your chance to be heard. So fire away, guys.
Yeah.
Fire away.
Chase,
let's not get into this again.
Match actually happened.
Let me tell you something, guys.
AK and Jed almost tore each other apart over this question, so I think that's
It's all love, baby. It's all love. It's all
We
love.
need to get it out of here.
You know what? Honestly, I think we're kind of good, gentlemen.
Oh,
Yeah.
Real quick, MMA
Yes.
is Life brought this. Oh, that was 3 rounds though. Never mind. He brought up Francis and Derek Lewis.
Sure.
At least
3
strikes,
Okay.
but that's 3 rounds. Doesn't
That was
count.
the most shocking,
Oh,
shocking one.
Honestly, let's go look it up because
I bet
there
it
is
still had more.
absolutely a world
I
where
bet it still
that
had
has
more.
more strikes
It might
in
still
it.
be
So
more.
you give
If
me
you'd like
one
to mix it.
second, gentlemen.
Uh,
Let me pull this bad boy up.
I ended the poll. It didn't change. Some people probably joined and didn't hear about the poll results earlier. So yeah, who was Saturday's biggest star? Nate Diaz by a mile, in defeat, 55%. Diaz Army going strong. Corey Sandhagen, dominant win in the UFC Nashville main event, 7%. 7%. So
Razor close, guys.
this is combat sports, guys. This is combat
31.
sports.
31.
31 significant strikes in the 3-round fight between Derek Lewis and Francis. So
it's
they
close.
are under just barely.
If it had gone 5, they would have cleared it easily. Yeah.
I think so. It feels like if it had gone 5, we're clearing that bar.
Oh, man.
History being made tonight, gentlemen. Where were you when you saw history? We'll all remember.
If I had known real time, that's why we need better commentators. Because if they had at least, instead of Bisping and Cruz like bickering like small children about the quality of this fight or whatever, if instead we had Laura Senko being like, guys, I think you're missing the forest for the trees here. This is a record-breaking performance of inadequate offense right now. Like this, we've never seen as few strikes as this thrown. I would have been much more engaged in that fight.
All right.
If they would have like a counter,
Let's wrap it up.
you know, like yeah.
Also, just feels like we should mention that because I don't think we have. Jake Paul dropped Nate Diaz tonight, guys. That was pretty cool.
We mentioned it.
He did, yeah,
we?
that's right.
I didn't remember us talking about that. That was pretty dope.
Nate Diaz almost rolled out of the ring. Like he
Like he
That was
almost
ugly.
dropped him through the ropes.
Yeah, and Nate
Did
Diaz
not
came
see
back.
that coming.
But you know what? I think Nate Diaz actually came back stronger. That kind of like
Sure
woke
did.
him up.
Looked great
It's
after it.
Also, that hit him in a weird spot too. It hit him
Right in the temple.
right
Yeah,
above.
right there, yeah. Yeah,
And he was
just-
kind of rolling with the momentum too. So
favorite part of the night. I don't know if anyone missed it. I think between the 9th or 10th round, Nate sits in his corner. Richard Perez, his lead boxing coach, says, Nate, you're not doing what you're supposed to. And Nate goes, sorry, Rich.
all that.
My bad.
Sorry, Rich.
He's a very polite man, you know.
Sorry.
Well, you know, that was another weekend of fights. It was a really weird weekend of fights. We had a lot of weird stuff happen, but also, you know, some interesting stuff happened too. So we appreciate you guys, as always, for riding with us along this beautiful journey that we call life. That man is Jed Meshew. Below me, to my right, Alexander Cayley. You know, down there, the undefeated EKC Leydon. I'm Sean Al-Shatti. We appreciate you guys. As always, thank you for rocking with us on MMA Fighting. It's a great website. Keep it locked all weekend as we bring you post-fight coverage for both these events. MMA Hour on Monday. You know how it goes. On to the next one tomorrow. We got all sorts of stuff coming for you. Have a great night, everybody. We love you. We'll see you next time.
Love y'all.